Welcome to the CMO Spotlight, and I'm so excited today. I'm here with the Chief Marketing Officer of Honeywell, Ron McMurtrie. Welcome, Ron.
Hey there. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to jump into the conversation. So I wondered if we could just start by your telling us a little bit about Honeywell, the company, and then we'll talk about your role as Chief Marketing Officer there.
Yep. Honeywell has really three key businesses that we run. We run a business around aviation, all things aviation. We run a business around energy that is looking at new ways to produce energy and support the energy transition. And we have a business around automation, which serves buildings and all things that automate that, whether building controls or security, fire and safety, those types of things, and in industrial automation, which you can think of everything from running large e-commerce centers to running battery plants to running large industrial organizations.
And I know a lot of consumers know of the Honeywell brand because of consumer products, but you all moved out of the actual consumer business some time ago, right?
We do, yes. We moved out of the consumer business a bit of time ago, but they, as part of that arrangement, they still use the Honeywell brand for a period of time. And so those fans and some of those thermostats that you see at the local hardware store or your larger stores are typically assembled by and run by somebody else, but use our brand.
Awesome. So I'm curious for you to tell us a little bit more about your role as Chief Marketing Officer. What does that entail? What does the team generally look like? What's the structure of marketing at Honeywell?
Yeah. So I described three large businesses that we have that make up Honeywell. There are CMOs for each one of those businesses. So four CMOs, two in the automation side, one for building automation, one for industrial automation. And they are regionally deployed. We're global in nature. So we have teams in North America, parts of Europe, Middle East, Asia, as you would normally expect that patch to roll out. And we really have, not all regions are created equal. We align by our customers. And then there's a corporate organization that does things like enablement and governance and things that we need to do, given we're a big company, to make sure that marketing is run and executed consistently, but then localized and transcreated based on what we're selling for each business and within each market. So kind of a classic global organization with a bit of a corporate team, but most of the resources are tightly aligned with customers based on the business or the vertical that we happen to serve within those four major businesses.
Awesome. So each of those three business units have their own marketing teams that serve that business unit particularly.
That's
And then
right.
there's some cross-functional team that serves all three.
Yeah, think of it as there's a bit of shared service for those things that you put in common, like how you run marketing automation gets done centrally, design, brand gets done centrally, but then what we put in the markets are things like customer marketing, event marketing, channel marketing, because they're running their channels, they're running their demand gen, they're running events and other types of ways to engage with customers. So we put that very close because it's all very specific to verticals within those businesses. So our philosophy is put our customer facing resources within the regions. That's where the relevance has to take place. And we create some shared services at the center for scale and for consistency and speed and things of that nature.
Great, makes sense. So I'm really curious about your career path. I know that I think you're a California guy originally and went to college in California, and then you first went into telecom at MCI, but then your career evolved from there. So I'm curious for you to give us a little path and what led you to this role.
You're right. I started with school at UC Davis in California, and from there I started in telecom. At the time it was MCI, which was a scrappy little growing telecom, taking on the telecommunications system, and I grew from there. Ultimately ended up at Verizon. When Verizon acquired MCI in the latter years of my telecom career, then moved to payments and did some work in payments, and then the data center space and virtualization, then ultimately to software, and found my way here with Honeywell. So what's interesting is I went from a services and a products business and an applications business to ultimately having that culminate at Honeywell, because we run products businesses, services businesses, and software businesses for all those industries and those markets I talked about. So it's been a fun journey. I've always been in tech. I'm a bit of a tech junkie. And my philosophy is I start at the product and go out to the and connect that with customer. My career in marketing actually started in product,
Yeah.
and
I
I've
love,
always stuck with that.
well, I have a soft spot in my heart for B2B technology marketing, particularly because that was a large chunk of my career. And, you know, B2B doesn't have to be boring.
I actually think it's quite cool. We at Honeywell, we build the things that make the world work. And Honeywell runs some of the most mission critical applications and solutions that with our technology not in place, the world would not function the way it functions today.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm curious if there's a piece of advice that either you wish you gotten early in your career, or maybe it's advice you would give to a young person just beginning their marketing career.
Yeah. Two things. I'd say be courageous and experiment. Those are my philosophies I have. That's how my career first took off. I was in a room. Our CEO was giving a town hall, and this was at my MCI days, and he talked about the company had just taken on some investment, and he was talking about new growth areas, and he was asking for volunteers to start a new business venture, which was fairly risky. And after the meeting, I emailed him and said, I'm in and I'd like to do it. And a couple days later, I get called into a general meeting room and there's a whole bunch of us. And he was very much into setting up tiger teams to go after new programs, very innovative kind of leadership style for its time. And today we know small group kind of projects are the way a lot of things get done in companies. But and I took that on. After 6 months of that project, I was asked to run the entire organization that started, and that was about deploying commercial internet services out to businesses. So very cool. And so mine, be courageous, raise your hand, even in doubt, and experiment as much as possible. Try new things.
Awesome. I forget which organization had the pizza principle for small teams. Is like if the team should be able to be fed by one pizza.
That's right.
It's too big of it, right?
If it's more than 8 slices, you've got one.
Right.
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 I've heard that too. I can't remember the organization, but
I think it might have been Google or Amazon or somebody that early did that. So I believe everybody has a superpower. So I'm curious what your superpower is, Ron.
I'd say that mine is I navigate. First off, I navigate very complex problems. It's my art. I can look at very complex things and boil them down to what's the outcome and how do we need to solve that. I'd say the other that I'd have is I get stuff done. I'm a person that can look at things and arrange teams and go after them and solve them. And let's say those are my two marquee points: is kind of seeing around corners and figuring out how to navigate, and then making stuff happen that's big.
Awesome. So I'm curious if there's some specific values that you like to either demonstrate as a leader, or maybe these are values you would demand from people to be on your team.
Probably the most important one I have is winning together. I'm citing some of Honeywell's values, but they resonate quite well with me. One is winning together. To me, it's an important one. You come in as a team and you win as a team. Obviously, in any organization, that's an important thing. And the other is just customer centricity. I think customer obsession is as a marketer, it's where I start with everything. What are we doing? What's the outcome for them? What are their need? And aligning that way. Those are probably two that I value the most.
I'm curious. You mentioned winning together as one of the things that you really resonate with. I'm curious how you coach and mentor the team in terms of giving them what they need to grow.
Well, I'm a marketing practitioner. I grew up as a marketer, and I'm a hands-on kind of leader. It's my job to establish a strategy, get buy into it, and then drive execution. and make sure that we're differentiated and we're supporting our customers. But the way I do a lot of winning together is, I celebrate a lot of successes. I build a lot of cross-functional teams that have people come together. But most importantly, I get down in the dirt with the team, and we go after problems together, and I understand their pain points and what we're trying to do. And Honeywell's a big company, so if you think about it, for three major segments, four big businesses that support them, and lots of products in between. And the way we win together is we go into problems together, we solve them together, and we come out and we lead in a uniform way that does that. And those are just some of the philosophies I have as a person.
Awesome. So at Setup, we're marketing matchmakers, and we bring together brands and agencies that can support them. So we're not on the client side. We don't live, on the client side. We're not an agency. We don't live on the agency side. So we kind of have a unique perspective to understand that client and agency relationship and how they work together with each other. I'm curious, just generally, how do you like to work with marketing agencies?
We obviously have a range of agencies, but I look at them in a couple of different classifications. I have some that we do to work at scale, and they're very important partners. They help us execute campaigns and drive things. But my best relationships are those that are part of my strategic plan, and they understand what makes me tick. They understand what makes the organization tick, and they understand what we need to do as an organization to win in the marketplace. And I very much like to have a handful of partners that can see a vision and bring big ideas and not be afraid to do so, and that put as much time into the relationship as they do to delivering on it. And so for me, in agency partnership is the key word is partnership. We have to feed the relationship and build trust in a way that allows them to come to us and help us take things to the next level, and really be an extension of the organization. So we operate on both spectrums. Not every agency can be your best strategic partner, but not every agency can help complete your sentences either.
Right. Well, we often talk about here at Setup, most of the times that a client hires an agency is either because of capacity issues, you just don't have enough arms and legs to do all of the marketing things you want to accomplish, or capability issues where, hey, we're good at these 10 or 12 things, but we need help in some other areas. So I'm curious if there are certain disciplines of marketing that you feel are so core to Honeywell that you need to keep them in-house. And are there certain other disciplines of marketing where you feel you really benefit from the external perspective or extra horsepower from agencies to support you?
Yeah, I mean, we have strong domain knowledge of the capabilities we deliver. We build most of our product. And so with that comes, if you look at the complexion of Honeywell's colleagues, we have a large group of offer managers, which that people would think of that as both product marketing and product management. We refer to them as offer managers. We have a very large engineering team that builds things, and that's a globally deployed team. And we have a massive supply chain. You put all that together, and it's a huge knowledge base of how things get done, how things get invented, how far forward looking we're looking at that. So we don't use a lot of our agency work is things like digital techniques, site design, those things that we use to drive specialization into our marketing. And we use them also for content. Like we're running a whole series of, as we're moving and become more and more vertical, we're using our agency partners to help drive that in. I'm running a bit of a transformation right now of the organization to help modernize different components of it. And our agency partners are bringing capabilities to help me build those skills within the organization and also fill in for them. And that comes in everything of like how we're doing account-based marketing to how we're using new types of data for decisioning, things of that nature.
Yeah, talk just for a second about the global nature of the business. I'm sure you need agency partners also to help you in other markets, for example.
translation and transcreation is key. So just for simple numbers, around $40 billion, with, close to half of that outside of North America. So you've got multiple languages, products have to land there. And so we tend to build once and then localize, is our philosophy. And that works across, our digital experiences, how our products get packaged, user guides, help, everything that you have to do to serve a client. And so we do use agency partners for those types of things. Of course, as you know, with any of that, there are local colleagues on the ground that also play a part in that.
Yeah, I mean, the worst misnomer in marketing history, I think, is marketing automation, because it requires a lot of work and care and feeding to make it work. And it's the same with, I think, agency relationships. It's like you have to manage those relationships. But to your point earlier about making the agencies a partner and giving them what they need to give you the best strategic guidance back. Somebody's got to be the interface with the agency that gives them the right information that allows them to do their best work.
That's right. Yes.
Excellent. All right. So I'm curious, we often work as marketers with the non-marketing functions of our organizations, and sometimes even those non-marketing functions of the organizations fancy themselves amateur marketers. And so I'm curious, how do you demonstrate the value of marketing to the non-marketing functions within the organization?
Yeah, that was when I took the role. I was a commercial officer for our software business before taking this role at Honeywell. And I was a marketer. I was always in sales and marketing functions, but always had marketing as part of my remit, whether it was dedicated as a CMO or part of the team. And when I took this role on my first job was to drive value of marketing. And the first thing I did is we were rewarded based on value, on volume and activity versus value. And so I shifted all of the team's narrative and metrics to value-based metrics. So very much revenue oriented. We talk very little about the number of widgets we create. We talk more about, what are the sales accepted leads that are now in place? How much pipeline are we generating? What velocity is that pipeline growing at? And then ultimately close one. So we have to understand full funnel. The entire way we show value now, because there are GMs across all these businesses, is how we're driving value to them. We did a lot of shifting and mix in terms of how we spend, where we spend, how we align it with growth. And it's put a kind of a deep business lens into what we do. And then we do a lot more measurement and a lot more data-driven conversations. It's less about the emotive part of marketing. Marketing is both art and science, as we know, but there's a human in the middle of that at every instant. And what I've done is swung the pendulum to as much science as I do the art part. And that's gotten a lot of our marketers out of the transactional mode that they were in. We had a large volume of campaigns, but those campaigns weren't always tied to really tight customer journeys. They were activities that were going to generate a set of volume-oriented metrics. We've now significantly changed the way that's done. So for me, it's about how we're using data, how we're telling stories, and how we shifted all of our metrics to for consumption within the organization outside of marketing to a much stronger revenue set of drivers that people can relate to.
Okay, so I have a bit of a curveball for you then. How do you then demonstrate the value of brand marketing, if it's not just about sales accepted leads, but also like the health of the Honeywell brand in each of the 3 business units? Like, how do you demonstrate brand value and brand lift?
Well, we do the same. One of the metrics was the diagnostic and the metrics we're providing. We benchmark our brand. We show the value of that. We can tell when we move the needle. So it's just what story you're telling at a given time. For most of our GMs, they're looking for both awareness and the value you're driving. So the value you were driving is how that hits the funnel, and and how our salespeople are being rewarded, or how our channels are growing. And from a brand standpoint, we very much are we index ourselves against our primary competitors by region and in total overall globally, and show how our activities move that needle.
Awesome. Okay. I'm curious if there's a campaign or a program that taught you a valuable lesson, either because it was a flop and you learned something important that you needed to learn in terms of a lesson, or maybe it was a huge success that you'd like to emulate in the future. And this could either be at Honeywell or even in a past life.
Yeah, I would say one that I'm most proud of is when I moved into the virtualization space. I'm going to take one outside of Honeywell, just for the purposes of this example. When I moved from payments to the virtualization space, I was part of a joint venture called VCE, and VCE was a venture between VMware, Cisco, and EMC. And our role was to take all the greatness that those companies create and integrate it into a series of use cases. So you would buy one rack that did mass virtualization, virtual machines, storage, and compute pre-configured for a use case. It created such economies, because you took every CIO had relationships with these vendors, and they were trying to manage all those.
Right.
Put that in one value prop to them, one price, fully integrated experience in terms of how they get support, how they acquire it, how it scales out. But the thing that we did, we created awareness around this space. Everyone else was doing reference architecture, so they were telling people how to build it if they followed the spec.
Right.
We actually built the product.
Right.
And it took off it was a unicorn business. But the campaign we did is we put well over 2/3 of our budget into AR and awareness to create the space across the community, and built worldwide with CIO audiences by vertical, bringing them into these use cases. And I believe that is what created the scale that we had. Aside from just having an incredible value prop and a product, we in a year took an entire CIO community and had them focus on thinking of how they buy data center services in a new and modern way, because of the way we connected AR references around that, and our capabilities and the way we drove demand. And it was just a big accomplishment. I owe it to the whole organization, the engineering team that built it, because they gave us something great to market. But that type of a point where we said, what is our greatest need? Well, it's connecting with the buyers, and then it's bringing in the most powerful third parties to come and reference that, which was really the crux of what we pulled together.
That's super cool. And that's probably a lot of fun as a marketer to be able to work at the precipice of 3 different organizations coming together, or really 4, to create like a holistic solution for a customer that actually craved that solution.
Well, it was quite fun, but you can also think of if you've been in a joint venture and you have 2 parents, imagine having 3. So
Right.
It was, amazing technology, but also in a great business learning in terms of how you manage the constituents while focusing on customers on the outside. And it's great. We had 3 innovative parents at the time that were inspired to do that.
But I'm hearing a hint of herding cats being part of that too.
It was a learning experience. Sure.
Fair. All right, so I've got some rapid fire questions just for fun to kind of wrap things up. The first is there a quote or a sports team or a movie or a book or a band that really inspires you? And what is it about that thing that inspires you most?
Yeah, I'll give you 2 answers there. First off, start with why.
Simon Sinek.
Simon Sinek. I'm a marketer. I usually start with that with every question when I'm with my team. And it's just a really simple way of thinking of the customer and the value you bring. So, and purpose. I believe marketing needs to be purpose led. Second is my hobby is music. I don't play, but I spend a lot of time seeing live music. It's what I do when I'm not doing my volunteer work or my day job and my night job and my family. But because I think music is just I'm a storyteller, and music, the bed of music and the words that come with it is, to me, emulates what I try to do in marketing, because great music does both. Again, back to the art and science part of it. So those are my two things. I don't know that I could give you a favorite lyric, because I'm all over the board with my music, and everything from festivals to garage shows. I love them all.
All right, so I'll put you on a spot again. What's a little known band that we should check out if we haven't heard them before?
Well, it would be a very biased thing. I would say it's my son's band called Basement Recess, which
Oh,
uh,
nice.
which they play a bunch of gigs in the Atlanta area and things like that. But there's lots of great bands. Just I listen to everything from very modern music to progressive to even and country. So I'm all over the spot. People ask for my playlist, and it's like I think it reinforces my lack of attention, because I'm all over the.
Fair,
Yeah.
fair. We're in the same boat there. And so, okay, where could somebody find Basement Recess if they wanted to hear
Oh,
them? I
oh, they're
guess
on
could they go to
Spotify.
Spotify or
They're
okay,
on Spotify, or just go cruise the Atlanta music scene. They play clubs and things like that. I think
very
like
cool.
their oldest groupie. But anyway,
Very cool. Well, you already answered my question about where you find joy outside of your family. I think music probably is a big one for you. Is there anything else that you love to do? You mentioned volunteering as well.
yeah, I do a lot with various groups. Like I sit on the board for the Technology Association of Georgia, and I'm actually the chair of the board. I've been involved in TAG for some time, but I spend a lot of my energy on they have these societies that are basically like-minded people that come together and advance their trade. One is Young Pros, which are people early in their career that I do mentoring with outside of my board responsibility. And then they have a marketing society, which, obviously there's a fit there, that I help different people with their trade and where they're going. But the tag is a big spot where I spend a lot of my energy. I do some other things, and other types of volunteerism in the community. Mostly it's giving back in the same way that I benefited when I was in a different phase of my career.
Awesome. Okay, last question. Is there a brand that you've never worked on that you really admire? And what is it about that brand that you admire most?
I would say that I would say the brand, the one, there's a couple that come to mind. One is Patagonia.
Mm,
Um, very in purpose driven. Their treatment of customers is bar none in terms of the quality and the way they think about the environment and how they build things, how they manage their supply chain, the high quality of their products, the nature and what they serve. So I think that it's a very kind of focused brand around outdoor wear. But if you do a little read their founder's book, the work-life balance and what they do. I don't practice all those things as well as should. Work-life balance, based on the story, based on this interview, you can tell. But he's just built a great company that's very purpose-driven and value-driven, and I think they hold to their brand in a very, very true way, which goes back to start with why.
I love it. Perfect way to end this conversation. Purpose-focused brand that, has a larger mission than just commerce and selling product, right? And they live their brand promise, as I think you do as well, Ron. So I want to thank Ron McMurtrie, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of Honeywell. This has been fantastic conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for including me. Appreciate it.